Welcome to Clacker's Clinic in Royal Oak, where I have a Consul 1511. I had a problem with the line lock. Everything on this machine seems to work fine until we get to the end of the line and all the letters start clumping up like so, even though we're at the very end of the line. Because the line lock is not engaging. The line lock should be stopping the letters up here. And I'm just going to show you which part I ended up fixing and show you where the line lock is. I'm pressing the space bar now. Watch down here. Watch this piece, and also watch this collar. I'm going to press the space bar. One more time. Now, as you can see, that knob on the end of that steel bar is stopping the trip point that is connected to the universal system. Basically, that stops any of the letters from hitting the platen. That bar wasn't going down far enough, and it's all to do with this collar here. This collar was way back here. Had I known before all the things that I know now, I would simply have moved along this collar, moved it that way along the rod, moved it that way along the rod after unscrewing it, that screw in the very top, loosening off that screw and slipping it along the rod that way until that bar I showed you extended to underneath the trip point. You can access it that easily. You don't have to take the carriage off at all. I suspect I may have to clean down here because that spring is not pulling that rod back over to the left. And as a result, and it's connected to this margin stop bar, it should be going left because it's connected to this. When it's in idle, basically when it's not in use, it should be going over to the left. So I'm going to put some kerosene and some air into it, see if I can loosen that up. Now I've cleaned it up, but it's still not bouncing back of its own accord. That spring just isn't strong enough, and I don't know if it's getting caught there. I somehow doubt it. I think it might be further back. I'm hoping I don't have to take off the carriage, but something along here is in need of hopefully just cleaning, but maybe some bending. Here is where the draw band is currently hooked. Yes, I need to replace the feet too. And I would suggest that you photograph every step of the way, every screw that you take off, every part of it that you take off basically, and view it all in reverse order for guidance on how to put it all back together. I know that probably goes without saying, but I find, for me anyway, that I always overestimate how well I will remember the order of the things that I have taken off any machine. I wouldn't have to take the carriage off, but then again, that's a barefaced lie. I want to take it off because I want to have a look underneath. I take out this screw, basically stops the carriage from falling off when it gets to a certain point, and when it gets to the very end. I'll take them off, I'll hook the drawer band on to wherever I am supposed to hook the drawer band on to. Ah yes, there. That's where the drawer band will hook on. Ah, there's only one stopper screw there. Margin release, we need to press that. We are trying to be careful of the ball bearing housing and remembering in what position we find it when we're taking off the carriage, so that we can replace it back there when we're putting it back on. You see, it's just starting to stick out there now. So that's where the carriage is when the ball bearing is sticking out that far. Right at the end is where the wheel is visible. So here's that same rod, which when you take the carriage off, at least it bounces back of its own power. However, even when this is engaged, say the margin stops coming along here, type, engaged, even then when you press the key, you can't see it here, but it's going all the way up to where the platen would be, here. And that should not be happening. So what is missing? What is the missing component? What's the missing attachment between there and the line lock? And when that exact same action happens, this arm extends down, and that there is the line lock. Not without the line lock, goes all the way forward with there. So when a key is pressed, it triggers the universal bar, which triggers a trip point down there. Now, there is something that looks like it's doing nothing at all, that looks like it could impede that progress, and it's that bar there, which itself is triggered by this very same rod we have been looking at. But it is not triggered far enough to impede the progress of that point of the universal, and I think that the distance of its travel will be influenced by the position of this collar here. And if it goes down far enough, it will be able to impede that to some degree. But we shall find out. The reason I think I'm onto something here is because when this is pushed further down, it slips itself in behind the trip point at the bottom. Behind this trip point here. That trip point there. And when it's all the way down there, that stops the key moving. But my first instinct was to get it to butt up against this. And so I wanted to form it outwards, but I was wrong. It needed to stay closer to the frame so it could slip in behind that trip. See how the trip moves? The end of that, whatever the hell it's called, slips in behind there. Nope, not yet. Again, the right margin stop reaches this point, activates the line lock down there. So, whereas without the line lock, the type slugs come all the way up into the type slug guide and hit the platen. When the line lock is activated, they are held back. Can't really see this, but notice, so that's with the line lock, that's without it. So none of the keys will hit the platen. So I would call that as close to victory as we can expect to get. Now typically I would look for this line lock behind the comb area back there, behind where these keys disappear. I would expect to see another layer of comb here that moved across with slots that moved in unison to block all of these keys as they were pressed down. But I'm not seeing anything even remotely analogous to that in this particular case, so I will investigate further. And that would stop the key from going down any further at that point. The way these machines feel is something you just cannot slap a price tag on. Straight, honest typing is the watchword of the Consul 1511. when you strike a key, there's absolutely none of the reverberative resistance that you might feel on some more common machines that leave you feeling like you're conducting a flea circus. And if you're ever lucky enough to come into possession of one of these Consul 1511s, then hang on to it for dear life. Or if you are not a typer, give it to somebody deserving. Okay, the line lock is working at the end, but there is some obstruction just before the end which I need to attend to.